After being reborn, I personally tore up my admission letter to Peking University and rejected the dramatic confessions of both childhood friends. In my previous life, I had chosen one of them, Ryan Carter. However, on our wedding day, he abandoned me for Sophia Lynn, leaving me humiliated and breaking my grandmother's heart, the only family I had left. She passed away in grief and anger, leaving me in utter despair. At my lowest point, my other childhood friend, Ethan Brooks, took my hand and said, "You still have me. I will never let you down." He helped me walk out of the darkness and married me. But after our wedding, he became distant and cold. I thought it was because he regretted that we couldn't have children. It wasn't until a car accident that I discovered the truth. Ethan left me dying to save Sophia, who only had minor injuries. I died on the spot. As my soul drifted, I learned the devastating truth. My entire life had been part of a twisted love game played by the three of them. They had already written their wills, leaving all their inheritance to Sophia. My inability to have children? It turned out they had bribed a doctor to remove my uterus, a cruel act to prove their loyalty to Sophia. Given a second chance at life, I decided to stay far away from all of them and live a life that belonged solely to me. When I tore up the admission letter to Peking University, my homeroom teacher, Mr. Taylor, was horrified. "Emma, what are you doing? This year, our school produced 4 students admitted to Peking University, and you're the only one who made it as the city's top scorer." The entire school had high hopes for me, but I remained calm and said, "I don't want to go to Peking University. I've already applied to the special research program at National University. They've promised to assign medical staff to care for my grandmother." Hearing this, Mr. Taylor let out a sigh of relief. "I see. Well, Emma, considering your family circumstances, it's a good decision. Study hard and build a bright future for yourself. Repay your grandmother for raising you." I nodded, hiding the bitterness of my previous life. Before I could get too caught up in my emotions, Ryan and Ethan called, urging me to come downstairs. On my way, I noticed people pointing and whispering. One even tripped me on the stairs and sneered, "Slut." Confused, I limped to a corner and overheard Sophia talking with Ryan and Ethan. "I really saw Emma getting out of a Peking University board member's car late at night," Sophia said, feigning concern. "But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Maybe she did get in based on her grades." "Sophia, stop defending her," Ryan snapped. "She refuses to publish her grades because she's guilty of something." "Exactly," Ethan added. "You're too kind, Sophia. That manipulative woman is capable of anything." My heart sank as I clenched my fists. Joining the research program required signing a confidentiality agreement, which meant I couldn't disclose my grades. I never thought this would give Sophia a reason to slander me. Worse, Ryan and Ethan, who knew how hard I studied for my grandmother, chose to believe her lies. I forced a bitter smile, telling myself it didn't matter. Once I officially joined the research program, all my personal information would be hidden. I could finally cut ties with them and escape the lies and deceit that had destroyed me in my past life. Pretending I hadn't overheard anything, I walked up to the trio. "What do you need?" Ryan's condescending tone disappeared as he smiled warmly. "Emma, this is great. We'll be at the same school again. All your efforts have finally paid off," Ethan added with a smirk. "And we can keep protecting you. For years isn't enough. We'll be here for life." Nearby, a group of younger girls glanced at us with envy, but I felt nothing. In my previous life, we all attended the same university. I studied hard, participated in countless school activities, and worked tirelessly for a bright future. Yet in the end, my scholarship and guaranteed postgraduate research position were secretly manipulated and given to Sophia Lynn instead. On top of that, rumors spread that I had an improper relationship with the school administration. I endured isolation and bullying for 4 long years. During that time, Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks would repeatedly tell me they would always stand by my side and protect me. But after my death, I discovered that they were the masterminds behind everything. They used my suffering to amuse the person they truly loved, Sophia. Seeing me silent, Sophia spoke with a saccharine tone. "Emma, you're so lucky, born into a life of privilege, with 2 childhood friends who are utterly devoted to you. I've never been that fortunate. If it weren't for your financial support, I wouldn't have been able to continue my education. Hearing this, Ryan and Ethan immediately showed concern for her. Sophia, don't say that. Ryan said, you're so beautiful and talented. You'll have an amazing future ahead of you. Once you graduate, I'll ask my dad to get you a position as a general manager. No, Sophia, Ethan interrupted. Come to my company instead. I'll give you a higher position and better benefits. Whatever you want, it's yours. The two of them began competing to outdo each other for Sophia's favor. Watching this, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. Despite knowing each other for so many years, they had never made such promises or shown this kind of affection toward me. It was clear. Love that came from the heart could never be faked. As I was about to leave, Ryan noticed my expression and, looking somewhat guilty, grabbed my hand. Emma, don't overthink it. We're only treating Sophia well because she's your friend. Ethan ruffled my hair. Just like when we were kids. Don't let your mind wander. We've finally finished exams. Let's go for a drive. We've prepared a gift for you. I nodded, not wanting to refuse. I would be leaving soon, and part of me wanted one last look at the city where we had grown up together. When we reached the parking garage, Ryan and Ethan eagerly competed to have Sophia sit in their front passenger seat. Sophia hesitated theatrically and glanced at me. But isn't the front seat reserved for Emma? If I sit there, she'll be upset. Ryan quickly guided her into his passenger seat. She won't mind. She's the most easygoing person. Ethan glared at Ryan, frustrated, and slammed his car door shut. It wasn't until the car was about to start that they realized I hadn't gotten in yet. Rolling down their windows, they exchanged awkward glances, trying to come up with an explanation but failing to find the right words. It's fine, I said calmly. I'll drive myself. Hearing this, they both sighed in relief, though they still seemed puzzled by my unusual behavior. I rolled up my window, unwilling to hear any more of their insincere excuses. As I drove, the familiar scenery stirred memories of the past. The three of us had grown up together, inseparable. Our families had even competed over who I would marry one day. But after my parents died in an accident, the once grand family was reduced to just me and my grandmother. The two of us struggled to keep our fragile home intact amidst a circle of predators. That was why I had thrown myself into my studies, desperate to take on the family responsibilities as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Sophia, who came from a poor background, was looked down upon at school. When I found out she was also an orphan, I pitied her and offered my friendship, supporting her financially and emotionally through school. I encouraged her to persevere through hardships with me, but she took my kindness as condescension and grew envious of everything I had. She used every trick to manipulate my two childhood friends and, with their help, destroyed my life. Lost in my thoughts, I didn't realize we had arrived at our destination, perhaps out of guilt from earlier. Ryan and Ethan rushed to open my car door and carry my bags. Emma, look, Ryan said eagerly. This is the park we used to visit when we were kids. Ethan and I bought it together. From now on, it'll be our secret hideaway. Ethan nodded, adding, I've had your favorite yellow roses planted here. By this time next year, there'll be a breathtaking sea of roses. The four of us can come here to drive around and watch the stars. Their faces were full of excitement and hope for the future. As if nothing had changed, I stared at the land before me, lost in thought. This was indeed our childhood secret base, a place filled with happy memories for the three of us. Yet, I had never liked yellow roses. In fact, I was allergic to all pollen. As I was immersed in my thoughts, a series of dazzling fireworks exploded overhead, spelling out my name in vibrant colors. The scene was breathtaking, almost surreal. Under this dreamlike backdrop, Ryan Carter took out a jade bracelet and held it out to me. Emma, this is my family's heirloom bracelet. My parents instructed me to give it to the future mistress of the Carter family. I've wanted to give it to you for a long time, and now I finally have the chance. Emma, will you be with me? Don't you remember when you almost drowned as a child? I risked my life to save you. I could give you my life. What's a mere bracelet compared to that? In my past life, I had been deceived by their show of deep affection. Back then, I naively believed that, as childhood friends, we would have a happy ending and that my grandmother and the family would have someone to rely on. It wasn't until the day I died that I realized even the most heartfelt acts of devotion could be staged. Just as I was about to refuse, Sophia Lynn suddenly interrupted, her voice trembling with faux distress. Emma, why did you tell people that I've been spreading nasty rumors about you? Now everyone is cursing me. Look. She held her phone up to my face, showing hundreds of comments on the school's official website accusing her of shamelessly sleeping her way into the university. The few comments defending me had been twisted by Sophia into evidence that I was attacking her. Ethan Brooks snatched the phone from her hands, his face livid. Emma, how could you do something like this? It's one thing if you don't behave properly yourself, but why drag Sophia into this? Ryan didn't explode like Ethan, but his expression was no less accusatory. He looked at me with quiet disappointment, as though I had truly wronged Sophia. Suppressing the storm of emotions inside me, I said calmly, I didn't do it. If you don't believe me, you can investigate it yourselves. But neither of them listened. They were too busy comforting Sophia. Don't worry, Sophia, Ryan said, his tone gentle. I'll contact the PR department right away to fix this. Let's go grab some ice cream, Ethan added. Sweets always cheer you up. The two of them flanked Sophia, guiding her away with care and devotion. Neither of them even glanced back at me. I took a deep breath, staring silently at the ashes left behind by the fireworks. Compared to the pain of death, this humiliation was nothing. At least I was alive, with a new life and future ahead of me. I decided to drive home, but then I remembered that Ethan had carried my bag earlier. I had no choice but to catch up to the three of them. As I passed through a grove of trees, I overheard Ethan's irritated voice. Sophia, sweetheart, how much longer do we have to keep up this charade? I can't stand it anymore. That Emma plays around so much. Who knows if she's carrying some kind of disease? She's so naive. She can't even tell the difference between an antique and a fake. No wonder she got seduced by an old man in just a few sweet words. Someone like her doesn't deserve to be the mistress of the Carter family. The true heirloom bracelet belongs to you, Sophia. Sophia gave him a pitiful look, her voice soft yet manipulative. Emma has done a lot of bad things, but she's been kind to me. How could I just abandon her? If you don't do as I say, I'll stop talking to you. At her words, the two men, so proud and seemingly untouchable, immediately apologized to her, their fear of upsetting her almost comical. They would trample over me just to elevate her to the heavens. A decade of shared memories and companionship couldn't compare to a few of Sophia's words. Fighting back tears, I turned away and walked toward home under the endless night sky, carrying nothing but exhaustion. By the time I got home, my sprained ankle was so swollen it was unrecognizable. My grandmother, distressed, quickly brought out medicinal wine to massage it for me. Not wanting to worry her further, I told her about my acceptance into the research program. Her eyes filled with surprise and joy. My Emma is so capable. I'm so proud of you. Grandma is getting older, and I'm the only one left to carry the Yin family forward. Holding back tears, I nodded. After so many years, it's finally a good thing for the Yin family. Grandma smiled, saying, we must throw a grand banquet to celebrate this joyous occasion. Her smile mirrored the one she had on the day she sent me off to my wedding in my past life. Back then, she thought I had found a good man and was full of happiness. But the shock of Ryan Carter fleeing the wedding for Sophia Lynn killed her on the spot. This time, in this new life, I was determined not to let history repeat itself. Given Grandma's age, I took on all the responsibilities of planning the banquet. When Ryan and Ethan Brooks heard about it, they offered to help, even bringing my favorite childhood treat, strawberry cake, as a peace offering. Emma, are you still upset about that day? You haven't replied to our messages for so long, Ryan said. We didn't mean to blame you. We were just worried you might make mistakes. For people like us, reputation is very important. I didn't forgive them, but I allowed them to stay and help. They owed me far too much for things to ever truly be resolved. All I wanted now was to never see them again in this life. After my parents passed, the Yin family fell into decline, and the once busy household became desolate. Today, with this banquet, I wanted to show everyone that the Yin family still had a future, that we were no longer easy targets for bullying. Grandma took the event very seriously, ensuring that every detail was perfect. On the day of the banquet, prominent guests filled the hall. Among them was Sophia Lynn, dressed in a custom-made gown, trailing behind Ryan and Ethan as she gracefully entered. Her eyes scanned the luxurious venue, filled with jealousy. Emma's life is truly charmed, she muttered to herself. But so what if you're born into privilege and excel in academics? I'll make sure you live a life worse than death. No sooner had her words fallen than the hall's massive screens lit up, displaying photos of me, one after another. The images showed me naked, in compromising positions with various men. The crowd erupted. Isn't that the N family's eldest daughter? This is outrageous. Figures. Kids without proper parental guidance always turn out rotten. No wonder people say she got into university by sleeping her way there. Seems pretty accurate to me. The N family is finished. Letting their daughter degrade herself like this? What a disgrace. I had lived through this humiliation twice before. The first time was on my wedding day, when Ryan abandoned me for Sophia, leading to Grandma's death and making the N family the talk of the town. The second time was at my funeral, where Ethan proposed to Sophia right by my grave, turning my entire life into a joke. The memories hit me like a tidal wave. Panicked, I turned to look at Grandma. Her breathing was rapid. Her eyes reddened as she stared at the photos. My Emma would never do something like this, she exclaimed. Seeing her condition deteriorate, my heart sank. I begged those around me to help take her to the hospital, but everyone stepped back, unwilling to be associated with someone they now considered tainted. Finally, Ryan and Ethan emerged from the crowd. Ryan took charge of driving, while Ethan and I supported Grandma as we rushed her to the hospital. Luckily, we arrived just in time. Any later, and she might not have made it. I thanked the doctors profusely and stayed by her bedside while investigating the surveillance footage. As expected, the footage revealed Sophia's involvement. She had deliberately switched the photos. Every single image displayed on the screen was a fabricated composite, entirely false. I held the surveillance footage, intending to report it to the police. But Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks blocked my way. It was just a joke, Ryan said dismissively. Do you really have to blow this out of proportion? Do you even realize what this will do to Sophia if you go through with it? I froze, staring at them in disbelief. Then, unable to hold back any longer, I yelled, "What about me? My grandma almost died because of this. Doesn't it matter that this could have ruined me? Ruined the N family?" Ethan immediately stepped in front of Sophia, shielding her protectively, and shoved me hard. Enough already. Emma, your grandma is fine now, isn't she? Besides, rumors don't come out of nowhere. You must have done something disgraceful to make people talk. Their words no longer hurt me the way they once did. I felt numb. I pushed past them, but Ryan grabbed my wrist, his face dark and unyielding. Emma, don't make a fool of yourself. You know the power our families hold. No lawyer would dare take this case. When I refused to back down, Ryan tightened his grip on my wrist and leaned closer. Don't forget, your grandma is still in the hospital. One word from me, and I can stop her treatment. I'll count to 3. Hand over the footage, or I'll have someone pull the plug on her ventilator. He dialed a number right in front of me. 3, 2. I'm sorry. Please don't. I collapsed to my knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I couldn't risk my grandmother's life. Ethan snatched my phone from me and smashed it to pieces on the ground. The shards cut into my skin. But he only looked at me coldly. As long as we're here, you'll never harm Sophia. I sat there on the ground, staring blankly as their figures disappeared. The pain in my chest swelled until it was unbearable. The grievances and humiliation of 2 lifetimes came flooding out all at once. I cried uncontrollably, my heart breaking into pieces. Promises made in youth had been lies. The bond of childhood friendship had been a farce. Only the hurt they inflicted was real. I didn't know how long I sat there, but eventually, I forced myself to return to the hospital like a lifeless shell, fearing Ryan and Ethan might tamper with her treatment. I stayed by my grandmother's side, refusing to leave even for a moment. During those days, the only messages I received were from Sophia. She sent me pictures of herself with Ryan and Ethan, traveling, bungee jumping, and doing all the things we had once planned to do together but never did. I blocked her number. When I looked up, I saw 2 tall men standing by my grandmother's bedside. They saluted me with sharp precision. Miss and we're medics assigned by the organization. Please rest assured that we'll take care of your grandmother's safety and health while you're away. Only then did I realize it was time for me to leave. I returned to the family home and threw away everything that reminded me of Ryan and Ethan. Without hesitation, I boarded a plane. Ryan and Ethan had never been my pillars of support. From now on, I would rely on myself to secure a bright future for my grandmother and the N family. Meanwhile, after their trip ended, it was almost time for school to start. Ryan and Ethan had been enjoying themselves but couldn't shake a lingering unease. They knew deep down that their actions regarding Sophia had gone too far. Emma's been through so much already, Ryan finally admitted. She lost her parents at such a young age and only has her frail grandmother by her side. She went astray. It wasn't entirely her fault. Ethan sighed. His expression conflicted. We've known her since we were kids. We grew up together. As her childhood friends, we should have been there to guide and protect her. Not, he trailed off, the weight of his guilt leaving the rest unsaid. On the way home, Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks bought a variety of gifts for Emma, piling their car with bags. Once they arrived, they headed straight to the hospital with supplements and other gifts for Grandma Anne. However, they were met with a cold refusal at the door. Mrs. N is a person of high status. Unrelated individuals are not allowed to disturb her rest. The phrase unrelated individuals struck Ryan and Ethan like a blow. They had grown up with Emma, closer than family, yet now they were being labeled as outsiders. Ethan rolled up his sleeves, ready to argue, but Ryan stopped him. His brows furrowed. As the heir to the Carter family, he instinctively sensed that the person blocking their way was not ordinary. Where is Emma? Have her come out and tell us if we're really outsiders, Ryan demanded. The person blocking the door responded coolly, no comment, and promptly shut the door in their faces. Humiliated, they left, with Ethan muttering angrily, Emma's temper is getting worse by the day. Who knows what bad habits she's picked up. Honestly, we've been too good to her. Spoiled her rotten. Ryan, however, couldn't shake an uneasy feeling, like something essential was suddenly missing. The emptiness gnawed at him, unfamiliar and unsettling. Let's check the N estate, Ryan suggested. They drove there in silence, but when they arrived, they found the estate eerily dark and empty. Not a single soul in sight. Even Ethan, who had been brimming with anger, began to feel uneasy. The two of them climbed over the wall, just like they had as children, and made their way to Emma's room. But what they found stunned them. The once cozy and vibrant room was now completely barren, covered only in a thin layer of dust. How could this happen? Where's Emma? Ryan stared in disbelief. Where are all the things I gave her? She used to treasure them so much. My gifts are gone too, Ethan added, his voice trembling. Even the photos of the three of us. Our travel journals. Everything is gone. They exchanged a glance, the unease in their hearts spreading like wildfire. Where could she have gone? Ethan asked, his voice shaking. The N family has been in decline for years. No one would dare take her in. She's probably just throwing a tantrum and hiding somewhere. When we find her, I'll make sure to teach her a lesson. What right does she have to act like this? They began making frantic calls to their friends, asking if anyone had seen Emma. They also instructed their bodyguards to search the city. By dawn, they had turned the city upside down but found no trace of her. Her ID, bank cards, and all other personal information were no longer valid. The only people who might know her whereabouts were completely out of their reach. The Emma who had once stayed by their side, no matter what, had now vanished entirely, leaving no trace behind, as if she had dissolved into thin air. Ryan and Ethan were consumed by fear and sorrow, so much so that even Sophia Lynn's invitations couldn't rouse their interest. Where did Emma go? Is she angry with us? Will she ever forgive us? Ryan muttered in the silence of his room, but no one answered. The lively, intelligent girl they had once known would never return. Meanwhile, Emma had landed at her destination after a long flight and a lengthy car ride. Exhausted from the journey, she finally arrived. Her teacher greeted her warmly. Welcome, Miss And, the brilliant young talent. Finally, you're here. We've been eagerly waiting for you, my teacher said warmly. When we heard you applied to Peking University, we were heartbroken. Talent like you. How could we let you slip away? Thank you, Professor. I promise I'll study hard and live up to your trust and support. I replied, bowing respectfully. He glanced at my profile. From a young age, you've shown great interest in this field. So why did you apply to Peking University? For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. Peking University had been Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks' dream. Growing up together, from our earliest words to adulthood, we were inseparable. We made a pact to attend the same university and stay together forever. Then Sophia Lynn entered the picture, replacing me. Ryan and Ethan, with their family connections, took the special admission route, pouring who knows how much money into ensuring Sophia could also get in. Ironically, the three of them, who used backdoor methods to enroll, later spread rumors that I had used underhanded means to secure my place. Thinking about it, I gave a self-deprecating smile. Back then, I was young and naive, trusting the wrong people and taking the wrong path. But now, given a second chance, I wouldn't make the same mistakes. Heaven had granted me an opportunity to start over, and I was determined to make something of myself this time. My teacher patted my shoulder with satisfaction. Good. Very good. First, I worried whether someone like you, raised in comfort, could handle the hardships here. But seeing your determination puts my mind at ease. The future belongs to young people like you. No hardship could compare to the pain of my past life. At least now, my grandmother was still alive, and I hadn't wasted half my life chasing after two people who didn't deserve it. From then on, I blocked out all distractions and threw myself into my studies. One day, as I was leaving the lab after a long night, I unexpectedly ran into Ryan and Ethan. I rubbed my eyes, thinking my exhaustion was playing tricks on me, but they clearly called out my name. Beside me, a senior whispered, "Emma, don't mess with those two big shots. Rumor has it they donated $2 million just to get a tour of the research group." As he spoke, Ethan strode over with a displeased expression and yanked me aside. "You just can't resist flirting everywhere you go, can you? If you're that desperate to get married, why not just come to me?" My senior tried to defend me, but knowing Ethan's bad temper, I gestured for him to leave, not wanting him to get caught up in this mess. Ryan, on the other hand, maintained some semblance of composure. His gaze was complicated as he looked at me. "Emma, why did you leave without saying goodbye? Why did you change your plans so suddenly? Why did you throw away the things we gave you? Why did you leave us?" His barrage of questions was relentless, making my ears ring. I rubbed my temples, my tone sharp. "Ryan Carter, what right do you have to question me? What exactly are you to me?" He froze, his hand hovering in midair, unable to answer. In this lifetime, I hadn't accepted his confession, hadn't loved him so deeply that I lost myself. To me, he was nothing. Even the meager childhood bond we shared had been consumed by the repeated harm they inflicted on me. Ethan Brooks, usually so proud and haughty, lowered his head slightly, his pride taking a rare hit. Was what happened last time really our fault? Did we go too far? But did you really have to be this heartless? Do you even know how long we searched for you? They told me how, after I left, they had been so desperate that they nearly lost their minds. In the end, with no other options, they knelt before my grandmother to beg for my whereabouts. Grandma, too kind and soft-hearted to ignore them, eventually told them about my decision. She had watched them grow up and couldn't bear to see them in such a state. I hadn't chosen either of them. Instead, I had chosen a new life for myself. And so, they used all their connections, sparing no expense, even millions of dollars, just to see me again. But my heart remained unmoved. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of their declarations to Sophia Lynn on the day of their confession. Then I looked at them coldly, expressionless. "Stop pretending. The game is over. If you like Sophia, go after her. Don't use my life as a tool to fulfill your so-called great love. I have my own life to live, and I hope you will stop interfering in it." The moment those words left my mouth, both of their confident facades crumbled, their faces turned pale, and they stood there speechless, their mouths opening and closing without a sound. Only the recording from my phone continued to replay their words, over and over again. Ethan, frustrated, lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, glaring at him coldly. "This is the research center. There are security personnel here. Don't think you can destroy my phone or erase the evidence. And don't even try to threaten me with my grandmother again. Just mentioning grandma brought a sharp pain to my chest. She had treated them so well, almost like her own grandsons. In the summer, she made refreshing fruit tea for all three of us. In the winter, she knitted scarves to keep us warm. For every holiday, every special occasion, she prepared 3 portions of snacks and gifts, never missing a single one. And yet, in my most vulnerable and desperate moments, when I needed their help the most, they had turned on me. Worse, they had used my grandmother's life to threaten me. I could not forgive them. I would not forgive them. Ryan's usually composed face flickered with a trace of pain. Emma, it's not what you think. That day, I only wanted to scare you. Grandma is like family to us, too. How could I ever harm her? Yes, Emma, Ethan chimed in, his voice tinged with urgency. You're forgetting. It was us who helped you take Grandma to the hospital. I let out a cold laugh. It's because of that very fact that I didn't hold you accountable. But my patience with you ends here. Ryan Carter, Ethan Brooks. I am no longer the helpless orphan you could push around. I will not let anyone hurt me or my grandmother again. My future is long and bright, and I have neither the time nor the energy to waste on people who don't deserve it. They opened their mouths as if to argue, but before they could say anything further, the security personnel from the research center stepped forward, blocking their way. Excuse me, gentlemen. One of the research center staff interrupted politely. Your visiting time is over. Please leave and do not disrupt our regular work. Though clearly unwilling, Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks had no choice but to leave. After walking some distance, Ryan abruptly turned back to look at me. Emma, we grew up together. I don't believe your heart can be so cold that you can completely forget our past. Yes, we made mistakes, but we'll prove to you that our feelings for you have never changed. Ethan nodded earnestly. One day, you'll forgive us. Hearing these words now, I couldn't help but find them laughable. In both my past and present lives, their excuses hadn't changed at all. Back then, they used the same appeals to our shared childhood to deceive me, tricking me into marrying them, trapping me in an empty house, and wasting my entire life on false promises. What I couldn't understand was why, when I was the one who had grown up with them, they never trusted me. Instead, they chose to hurt me so deeply for someone like Sophia Lynn, someone they had only recently met. And now, having claimed to love Sophia so much, why were they here again, pretending to care so deeply for me? I didn't know if their words were sincere or just another ploy orchestrated for Sophia's sake. But what I did know was that from now on, my life had nothing to do with them, and I had no desire to see them again. I underestimated their persistence. However, in the days that followed, the food at the research center suddenly improved, almost doubling in quality. Nearly every meal consisted of dishes I liked, and strawberry cake, my childhood favorite, was delivered punctually every day. Everyone from the senior staff to the cleaning personnel received gifts. My senior couldn't help but remark, Emma, are those two trying to win you over? They're certainly generous. Are you jealous? I joked lightly. What's there to envy? He scoffed. Anyone who chooses this path shouldn't care about material things. He was right. I wasn't the girl who could be moved by a piece of cake or a sweet word anymore. Now, I had a bright and promising future ahead of me, a wonderful life waiting. Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks were nothing more than insignificant specks in my long journey. But the less I responded to their efforts, the harder they tried. Gifts flooded in like a never-ending stream, making my life miserable. Finally, my teacher had to personally intervene to put an end to their ridiculous antics, allowing me a period of peace and quiet. Even so, I couldn't avoid seeing them when I returned home during the holiday. This time, the two of them looked completely different. The once proud heir of a wealthy family and the rebellious rich playboy now appeared haggard, their confident air gone. As I helped Grandma stroll through the garden under the sun, they approached, bringing a tearful Sophia Lynn with them. Emma, we need to talk, Ryan said. I know you don't want to see us, but this will be the last time. If we don't say this now, we'll die with regret. I didn't want to deal with them, but Grandma gently patted my hand. Go, she urged. Some things can't be avoided forever, no matter the outcome. It's better to resolve them. Reluctantly, I led the three of them into the living room. As soon as they entered, Ryan and Ethan knelt down, their faces etched with pain and sorrow, as if they were drowning in endless torment. Emma, Ryan began, his voice trembling. The night after you left, Ethan and I had the same dream. In the dream, we did terrible things to you, one after another. The dream felt so real, so vivid it was like it had actually happened. That's when we realized why you left and why you've been so cold to us. I didn't respond, but Ryan Carter and Ethan Brooks were already in tears. Beside them, Sophia Lynn suddenly rushed forward, throwing herself at my feet as she broke into loud sobs. Emma, please, I beg you to forgive me. I never wanted to ruin your relationships with them. I never did anything wrong. I only liked them innocently and wanted to repay your kindness. Shut up. Ethan grabbed Sophia and slapped her hard across the face. His whole body shook with rage. You wretched liar. It's all because of you that we ended up like this with Emma. We found your diary hidden under the table. You never liked us at all. You got close to us on purpose because you envied Emma and wanted to hurt her through us. As their accusations unfolded, many mysteries from my two lives began to make sense. Sophia had used me to learn everything about Ryan and Ethan's preferences. She had carefully molded herself into the ideal image they would fall for. One moment, she played hard to get. The next, she acted cute and submissive, like a cat toying with mice. She manipulated them into the palm of her hand. Seeing no way to defend herself, Sophia dropped her pretense entirely. Her eyes gleamed with a mixture of fury and desperation as she screamed at them hysterically. Yes, I did it all on purpose. So what? Why does she get everything handed to her from birth while I have to survive on her charity? I'm just as beautiful and talented as she is. Why do you both adore her so blindly? It's unfair. I wanted to destroy her. I wanted her to know that the love she thinks she has is nothing more than the scraps I decided to leave for her. Ethan couldn't hold back any longer. He kicked Sophia hard, sending her sprawling to the floor. His temper, which had been wild and uncontrollable since childhood, exploded into blind rage. This time, he didn't hold back. Afraid they would tarnish the family estate, quickly stepped in. Enough. If you want to fight, take it outside. Don't put on this farce in front of me. Emma, I'm sorry, Ryan murmured, his voice heavy with regret. I was so foolish, so easily deceived by her lies. I forgot our past. I forgot how amazing you are. The two of them looked at me, their pride shattered, and broke into sobs. Ryan kept muttering under his breath. I've always cared about you. That's never changed. But you were so smart, so exceptional. I wasn't confident I could win you over, so I deluded myself into believing her lies. I thought dragging you down would be the only way to keep you by my side. They thought they could pull me into the mud, that they could trap me there forever. But the tides of life aren't so easily controlled. From that mire, I grew wings and flew far away, beyond their reach, beyond their sight. Sophia Lynn was hospitalized from the beating. Her face was disfigured, and she was forced to withdraw from school. Ryan and Ethan, too, faced repercussions for their actions. With my teacher's help, I applied pressure on both the Carter and Brooks families, ensuring that they would never appear before me again. They could bully the orphan Emma of the past, but they couldn't bring down the determined and ambitious Emma I had become. The day I returned to the research center, the sun was bright and warm. I didn't know what would become of those three, but I knew my path ahead was clear and radiant.